Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin Sully, joined by Gordon Mack. Very busy day. Show rundown is packed to the brim. Indoor, road, cross country. We got it all. Gordon, good morning. How are you?
Doing good. Coming off of a wild weekend. I did a Christmas bar crawl on Saturday that I came up with in Austin. I Googled every Christmas bar in Austin, found out where they're all located, created a map that was in the correct order, and then I was able to convince some people to come with me. And I did it. And I made it to the final bar, which was a Hanukkah themed bar. Uh, and I had a good time. I suggest if you live in a city that has a bunch of Christmas themed bars, to find a way to do a Christmas bar crawl. Of course, if you're over 21. If you're under 21, then I don't know. Just wait a few more years.
Great advice at the top of the show for Gordon Mack. If you're watching live or taped on YouTube, you might notice something different about page, Gordon. There's a little button there next to subscribe where it says join, because right now we're doing a little bit of membership situation here on YouTube. So if you click join on the YouTube page or underneath this video on YouTube, we're starting with 3 different levels of membership so that people can support the channel. Members will receive custom loyalty badges next to your name in the comments and Gordon, in the live chat as well. There's custom emojis as well in the comments and the live chats. We're also going to be doing special membership only content like videos, special podcasts for members as well. So if you'd like to support the channel more, click that join button on the FloTrack Podcast YouTube page or underneath this specific video. And we also want to see where you guys want to take it. So if you have feedback in the coming months, once you join, let us know what you'd like to see as a member. I know I personally am excited about some of these custom emojis here that Travis has cooked up.
Yeah. The question is, are they going to be used to celebrate a take that I have, or are they going to be used to mock a take that I have? That's the question I have. I also see there's 3 tiers, and I am the lowest tier. And
Uh-huh.
I know I should probably promote people to go to the higher tier, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to want people to go to the Gordon's Goons tier because, hey, it may be less money, but it's my team, and I think people should support the Gordon side of the podcast, not the elitist Kevin side. But we'll see. We'll see what people do.
Well, then you got the prelim time is PR time, which obviously the highest level of membership goes with the highest level of saying. I like the emojis there at the bot. There's 2 Gordon ones there. The one on the far right, what is that? What
Oh,
face are you
that's
making?
from
Where's that from?
it's from a press conference in London,
Were you in the press
where
conference?
Usain Bolt
You
was
look
there,
serious. Okay.
and it was like a big deal. It was very crowded. Everyone was excited to see Bolt. I think it was coming fresh off of like another like doping announcement of like Gatlin or whatever, and it's the famous press conference where he actually got tested right before it, and he had like a band-aid on his arm, and so he showed like, I've been tested for,
Okay.
right before the press conference. And that was Kirby, one of the popular photogs
Kirby Lee.
on the track and field circuit. He took a picture of me while I was waiting, and I asked my question. I forget what I asked him. It was probably something stupid. I, I, when I was on the European circuit, I would try to ask the non-normal question just to change it up, because I was like,
Yeah.
"What are you thinking about going into this race?" Or "What are you thinking about?" All this like cliche questions. I
Mhm.
was like, my most notable one where I Pokemon Go was like viral at the moment. Do you remember when everyone was playing Pokemon Go on their
Oh, yeah.
phone?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Became a whole
Mhm.
thing. Car accidents were happening because of it. I wanted to see if Usain Bolt was playing Pokemon Go. So after like his prelim of 100, I was like, "Yo, you playing Pokemon Go?" And he just looked at me like, "Who's this kid?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "All right, you heard it
Cool.
here first. The fastest man in the world does not play the most popular game in the world." So I was able to kind
Back
of
to you guys.
journalize that moment.
Very good. Very well done. Okay, so again, you can subscribe, be a member to the podcast. Um, got the badges, got the emojis. The exclusive content's going to be exciting too. We've been kicking around some ideas. We want to hear from you guys. What exclusive content would you like? Bonus pods, bonus videos, perhaps live chats, Q&As with Gordon. I mean, the possibilities are endless. We have some ideas, but let us know what you'd like. And of course, if you want, we have a lot of people who support the show, right? We have a lot of people who've thrown us, those what are those called? Super chat comment. We've had people who tune in basically to every single podcast. We see them commenting all the time. It's just a way to become a member, support the show, and also get something good in return. So we appreciate any and all sorts of people who hop on and decide to be members.
Yeah. We're going into a new year. So it's
Yeah.
kind of wild that we've only been on YouTube for less than a year. We started in February or March on YouTube.
Hmm.
The podcast is 2 years old, but the YouTube version of it is 1 year old. So now going in 2022, we're upgrading it. Go even bigger and better.
I'm looking at this rundown, Gordon, for today's show. We got BU,
Long rundown.
Running Lane, Valencia, US Half Champs, CIM. You got the story about the new qualifying rules for the Olympic marathon trials, if there are Olympic marathon trials. You have the story about how the 10K at the US Champs is not going to be with the rest of the track meet. It's going to be spun off into its own track meet. I suppose we start with BU because BU had multiple stories there with multiple fast races. And I think the headline for me was the men's 5,000. I think that's where I would like to start with the men's 5,000. We talked about Hoare versus Beamish, two on athletic club members going head to head. It turned out to be a Oliver Hoare show, although Jordy Beamish ran really well to get second. They both smashed their national records, 13:09 for Hoare, 13:12 for Beamish. So the Australian and New Zealand records are rewritten. And then on the collegiate side, you had Wesley Kiptoo just drop another fast one, 13:14. And then behind him, NAU really showed their depth with Abdi Hamid Nur, Nico Young, Drew Bosley, and George Kusha. Did everybody get what they wanted out of this race? We had Barry Keane of Butler setting an Irish record. Like everybody got a record. George Kusha set the South African record. Pros, collegians, it didn't matter. It seems as if everybody went home happy from the BU men's 5K.
You think about this to just show you the craziness of the depth of this race. A man ran 13:38 in this race in a 5K, and is sitting outside the top 16. Olin Hacker from Wisconsin soloed at the Grand Valley State Holiday Open the day before, runs 13:37, which any year is going to be fast enough to get in. And then in 24 hours, he goes from the number one ranked athlete in the country to the number 16th ranked athlete because
Mm-hmm.
everyone and their mom was running extremely fast on this track. And it got me thinking about a lot of things. First of all, what's going on here? I mean, obviously, we always joke BU track is fast, the shoes is a thing, this, that, the other thing. But like, you look at some of these guys who are running extremely fast 5K times that we normally wouldn't see like in years past. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a guy, Sam Gilman of Air Force. He ran 13:25.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Sam Gilman, like, no, I didn't know it. I mean, I remember Barry King's name because he ran for Butler, but like Sam Gilman, I looked him up. His 5K PB last year was 14:10.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm assuming, he had a really good summer, trained hard. He did finish 26th at NCAA Cross. So he's coming off
Mm-hmm.
a solid performance. But he finished 34th in the mountain region, which isn't anything too crazy. And then he went 13:25. Like 13:25 is quick. Like
Yeah.
that's quick.
I think there's a couple things. I think there's a few things going on here to answer your question. First of all, Hoare and Beamish, they're podcasters now, so they automatically get faster. We all know that. Grant Fisher started the podcast last year. That tracks. You and I are the only people who got slower after starting a podcast. But by and large, you start a podcast, you get faster. Two, the presence of those guys as well as Klecker made this thing quick. This is normally really college dominant. Or if it's pros, it's not top level pros. So they had excellent pacing. And those two guys kept it going all throughout. Three, I think last year, because of the pandemic, because of the cancellations, I think everything got scrambled. And we obviously focused in on the people who ran really fast. And there were a lot of people who ran really fast last year. And everybody said it's because they were training for all those months and they didn't have to race and they came out of the pandemic and they were running really hard. But I think for other people, I think they benefit from a more frequent racing calendar. And we're seeing the benefit of them having a more normal, now nothing's normal right now, but a more normal type schedule. So I think it was all that stuff combined, add in the benefit of the new shoe technology and obviously how fast BU is, and this is what you get. Is there any Oliver Horse stock left to buy? I'm wondering because I feel like I was really high on Hor last year, and then it sort of tapped out because he makes the Olympics and runs really well. But are people still wondering about this guy? Are there any questions left? Because if there is stock remaining at a decent price, I want to buy all of it.
I think there's still more stock you can get.
He
And I
he went
think,
look at his last 2 laps. Did you see this? He went 28.7, 26.7 for his final 2 laps. Like he was rolling on the back half of that thing.
yeah, I mean, he's definitely setting up to be a sub 13 guy
Yeah.
in the next year or two because 1309 on indoor track this early. Like I said, in order for there's a lot of the most of the I mean, a lot of elite 1500-meter runners can run 13:0 slash sub 13. Look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen,
Mhm.
and a few others. Central was able to do that. But yeah, it just shows that he is ready. He's like extremely established at the I am a top 8 in the world type guy.
So let's look at this from the college perspective. What do you think the main takeaways are from the college perspective? I think Kip 2 obviously benefits from being in a pro race here because he doesn't need to do all the leading, and then you have the strength of NAU, um, Nur Bosley or Nur Young Bosley Kusha obviously ran ridiculously quick and looked to be. Yeah, we haven't had the Tyler Day 2020 performance yet, but it's also only December, so there's plenty still to come from a college perspective. What did you think was the biggest takeaway?
Well, I want to kind of highlight something about it. So I sent to Travis a link to the 2014 Hoosier Open 5K. So I've been around for a while, and we've had these like early season races. There was a race where an NAU athlete, his name was Brian Schrader. I think he was in his 5th year. He ran 13:40 in a 5K in Indiana in December. And people were like, whoa, Brian Schrader, 13:40. This is quick. You know what happened right after he ran that 13:40? He went pro because he ran 13:40. That mark was you see, and he also was like 13:58, 14:02, 14:05. His
Yeah.
13:40 was enough to get a pro contract with Saucony because of, I believe it was Saucony, because he was like, wow, guy in college running 13:40, that's insane. Now this is all the way back in 2014, not that long ago. We're
Hmm.
talking 6 years ago, and now someone running 13:40 in the year of 2021,
Yeah.
they're like not even in like qualifying for nationals. And I think that just shows there's been a major shift in the 5K and in most distance events from over the past 5 years, where we're just at a new level where we are now normalizing 13:30s. We're now normalizing if you're a top 5 in a nation, you're a 13:20 guy. And you
Yeah.
see someone like
Yeah.
Nico Young, he smashed the U220 record by like 25 seconds. It was Chris Derrick 13:48. Like
Mhm.
normally we break records, you break it by a few seconds or so because like, hey, but like breaking something by that much in one swoop
Mhm.
is just like we're in a new world. And these times
Mhm.
are kind of like we got to recalibrate what these times mean because was Brian Schrader that bad? Or were we that
No.
stupid to think that 13:40 was great? Like, what's going
Well,
on here?
well, I think I mean, I don't know the details of Schrader's contract or what was going on. You have a much longer memory for that stuff than
But
I
you know what
do.
I mean.
But I'm guessing a lot of that was on potential too. Hey, 1340 in December. Well, then that means he's going to run whatever if he was, fully peaked, right? I think we have in a little bit of just like this grouping effect, and the pace gets going, right? And you have everybody out there working in tandem. They're in great shape after cross country, and the times are dropping. I mean, to be honest with you, when I saw Kiptu's time, I was not surprised at all. I thought he'd have a shot at the collegiate record. Like I mean, if he broke Lowry's 13:08, would you have been surprised? I mean, Lowry's a
Oh
special
no.
runner, but I wouldn't have, just because how things have been going with the breaking of the records just over and over and over. And this was a perfect race for Kiptu to do it. Now maybe he should be sharper come the new year, but to have rabbits out there as pacing as well as they did, and to have pros running as solidly as they did, I think was a ideal setup for him. But the depth is just unreal, and you're getting more and more people committing to the same race, and then you have just this power of the masses here. So, what does this tell us about NAU? Do you think, in terms of their shot at racking up a ton of points indoors? Because yeah, it's impressive. But if you're saying, hey, everybody's kind of joining the party, we got to be ready for other schools to jump in and have some fast times too.
I've already started thinking about that type of stuff. There are only a few others who could probably get into 1320s. There's Morgan Beetlescomb. There's Ian Shanklin, who's hurt. Um, Eduardo Herrera didn't run well here, but he's a 1320 type guy. So there are a few others.
Yeah.
Dylan Jacobs, I believe, of Notre Dame. But based on what we're seeing here, I think it's safe to say that NAU could put two in the top four and three in the top eight. So I think Nur and Young are good enough to finish like third, fourth. I
Yeah.
think Ithanis Kyoko and Kip two are going to be the kind of the 1-2s now that there's no count on Mantz.
Right.
So I think they could go 3-4 and then maybe like 6 or 7 with Bosley. I don't think Kusha is going to run the 5K. I think he'll end up
Right.
being a mile DMR guy. Um, but you look at that and the absolute 3K. I don't think there's any other new person except for maybe a year Nagoose. Is
Hmm.
Nagoose even going to be in college? I don't know. This guy, we saw Cooper Tier go pro. We saw Connor Mance go pro. You'd think Nagoose would be able to parlay his making the Olympics to go pro, but maybe he wants to
Hmm.
come back to do another DMR party. We don't know about that. Uh, but NAU has the ability to score 3 to 4 in a 5. They could score individuals, not points. 3 to 4
Yeah.
people finish top 8. I think they could get 2 to 3 top 8 in the 3K, and I think they could get 2 top 8 in the mile. Notably, they could maybe win the mile with George Kusha because I saw Charlie Hunter is not coming back. He's one of the top guys, and
Yeah.
the mile is always weird. Some people go all in on the DMR. So I looked at it, and I know we were big on this in 2020, right before the pandemic. But I think
Mhm.
NAU could score 30 to 40 points, like 30 on a 25 on a bad day, 30 on a good day, and 40 on a great day. And if you're in that range, you're in podium contention.
They're well positioned. There's a lot of people who've gone pro
Yeah.
recent that could have displaced it. You talked about the 5K being the deepest it's ever been last year, and I think to go back to your larger question of like what's happening. This is a new era. I think this is just an extension of what we saw indoors a bit last year, but indoors last year was kind of screwed up because cross country was at the same time. We really saw it outdoors. I mean, you saw it indoors with the Oregon guys, right? And then outdoors, you saw it with everybody. I think this is just sort of a 2 year acceleration in time. And maybe not everybody got their big PR last year because their schedule was screwed up, or they weren't able to get to this meet or that meet, or the fields were not as deep as they should have been. So I think this is a continuation of what we're seeing. I do anticipate it will level off after this season, but for the time being, it's going to get fast. Speaking of fast, I also want to talk about the women's 3,000. I really thought this was an exciting race. You had some superstars from the NCAA scene, Kayla McCabe getting the win out there. Caitlin Tui had this big move late in the race, made a bid for it. It was very exciting. But all totaled, you had 5 women 8:54 or faster. Now, granted, 3 of them are still NCAA eligible. Anna Camp Bennett of BYU does not have indoor anymore. So she ran a great race in cross and she finished second here, but she's running professionally now. But McCabe at 8:52, and then Caitlin Toohey 8:54, just ahead of her team, Samantha Bush. This was an exciting race and really quick this early in the season.
Yeah, it definitely showed McCabe has some speed. Sometimes you're not sure where the speed is. You can't really identify it on a cross country course. But seeing her in a 3K here, she was looked the quickest, and I mean she was able to outkick the NCAA 1500-meter champion.
Hmm.
McCabe is the real deal. I mean, we said she's been the real deal ever since she followed up her Nutty Comb. Ever since really Nutty Comb, we're like, wow, you win that, you need to
Yeah.
start being talked about more. Then she continued winning Big 12s. She was in the mix at NCAAs, finishing top 3. And now here with the quick 3K, she's going to be the person I think, to beat potentially in this indoor season. I mean,
Mhm.
Chalanga is there. I get it. But I don't know. I think Chalanga is going to have some vulnerabilities in like just like a sit and kick style race. She may not be 100% the best like
Yeah.
tactical runner. And Courtney Wayman is still there for BYU. She's going to kind of replace what Whitney Orton was on the cross world. And we'll see Wayman ran a good 5K. But McCabe is definitely the one to watch. She's going to finish no worse than second or third in whatever she chooses to run, whether it's a 3 or the 5 or both.
Yeah. And for Tui, her PB going in was 9:01, so she knocked 7 seconds off of that. Again, that big move for home from far out, I thought was an interesting choice by her. But NC State DMR. Do you think they have a solid chance at a DMR? I know it seems like they're a little bit more distance focused. If the DMR ended with a 3K, maybe it'd be a little bit better for them. But they're just so deep here.
Yeah, they'll be fine with the deal. Yeah, I mean, you run 854. They have two 854 runners in the same race here. One of them, you just need, they can have a good enough DMR. I'm not sure if it's DMR that can win, but they'll have a DMR that one will qualify and one that will be in it with, a few laps to go.
Yeah. And listen, when you start at the level that Tui started with going into college, PRs are big. PRs are huge, right? Because you're already starting at that high level. Just keep clicking it off, clicking it off. So exciting stuff from BU. You mentioned women's 5K. Whitney Orton Morgan got caught at the end there by Rodenfels, and then Courtney Wayment ran really fast. Um, Looked like the collegiate record might go down for a bit there, but those are my highlights from the meet.
Weren't you told by the coach that Courtney Wayment was trying to run like 1550 or something like that?
I was led astray, Gordon, and believe you me, I followed up with said coach, and I said, you know what? That was not cool. That was not cool because they put it on the meet notes. There's a collegiate record attempt, and I'm looking through. I'm like, who in this list is going to go for the collegiate record? Said it makes sense. It'd probably be Waymit because Waymit has indoor eligibility, and Orton Morgan can drive the pace. And she said, no, that's not what they're going for. But it turns out that they actually were, and they just missed. But other opportunities in 2022.
Yo, we got breaking news.
Breaking news.
First ever member is a member of the Gordon's Goons.
Oh
They chose
no.
they're on my side. My side is cheaper, so that's probably why. But it don't matter. I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I can to rack up the most members versus you. I'm winning this game 1-0. So big shout out to Tampa Eagle, who also put in a question: what is the qualifying time for indoor champs? For NCAAs, it's top 16. So right now it's 13:37 for 5K. Indoor, I don't know. For for USAs and Worlds, we'll get into that later. No one's really running in
Someone,
that yet, but we'll break that down in 2022. So, but yeah, thank
someone
you for
put it in the
joining,
chat.
man.
Yeah, thank you. Much appreciated. Even though you joined Gordon's squad and not my squad, if people are joining late, what we're talking about is joining because we have membership tiers now. Let's change topics, though, Gordon. Let's talk about Newbury Park. at the Garmin Running Lane Cross Country Championships. They went there and they did exactly what we thought they would do because they are very good. They go 1, 2, 3, 6 for a total team score of
28
29
points.
points. Or
29.
28, 20, 20, okay.
I don't know the number.
Sub,
It was under 30.
sub, sub 30. You just had complete dominance here. I mean, the time was ridiculously fast. It's a quick course. So you have all these guys under 14:10, which prior to this race was the fastest high school 5K for a U.S. runner by Ritz, but Solomon goes 14. Colin Solomon goes 14:03. Leo Young goes 14:05. Lex Young goes 14:05, and Aaron Solomon goes 14:14. In between them, Zane Bergen of Niwot goes 14:09, and Riley Ho, who came in as a number one ranked mile split runner, gets fifth in 14:10. So you had four guys in total sub 14:10, three of them on the same team.
Before we break down the times, can you go back to that screenshot, Travis? Bring up the YouTube and go back like a second or two. Look at the crowd at this race. Like if you look to
Mm.
to the left, look how
Oh
deep
wow!
it is. Bring it up on the screen. There were a lot of people there. Like it was a legitimate like national championship. There was a
Mhm.
crowd. This wasn't just like run in the middle of nowhere where you couldn't really know what's going on, kind of just like Ricky Dink cross country course. But this was like a legitimate national
Mhm.
championship atmosphere. And for them to put that together, like after Nike Cross Nationals got canceled, and you were thinking how many people are going to go to Huntsville, Alabama? Well, they got the best athletes to go, and then they also got a legit crowd to come and cheer it on. Like that looked like NCAA cross like
Mm.
type atmosphere. Like, look at
Wisconsin
that.
looked like
Bring that down
Madison.
on the screen. Look at that. That looks like Madison.
28, less snow, but yeah,
That's like stadium seating.
impressive.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I think it's kind of incredible that they're able to pull such a great event together for these high school kids. Yeah, but back to what we saw. Breaking Dathan's 14:10. First things first. The course is not short. I made a joke that I thought it was short when Jenna Hutchinson ran her fast sub 16, but they had many coaches, double check, triple check.
You haven't
They had
recovered
kids with
since.
their Garmin watches checking the satellite distance, but it is 3.1 miles. It's 5,000 meters. The reason
Yeah,
it's quick is because of the surface, because of the way the elevation change is. So it's a legit 5K time. But when you see 4 or 5 people run 14:10 or faster, it makes you
yeah.
think, what's in the water in Alabama or something, or I guess what's in the water in Newbury Park, because
Mhm.
to have 5 virtual Dathan Ritzenheins on the same course in the same year, it just seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to our point last week about, hey, how good is this team in history? And you're like, all right, well, here's a historical marker. Again, it's cross country, so you're comparing a bit to apples and oranges when you're going against um picking against comparing courses, excuse me. But here's the fact: the top three guys are the top three guys in the nation, and they're all on one team. When has that ever happened? Because I think most of the big dogs are here. Now, you could run this race again. Maybe there's someone that's excluded, come in and pull an upset. But you have three guys, not three guys who would make a national championship meet out of a region from Foot Locker. No, we're talking about three guys going 1, 2, 3. It's absolutely absurd what they're doing. Now, as it pertains moving forward, cross country courses, hard to predict how fast you're going to run, but a track is faster usually. And by usually, I mean always. So if you're running on a cross country course, I don't care if it's the fastest cross country course ever. If you're running 14:03, 14:05, 14:05, and 14:14 on a cross country course, you're going to run something ridiculous on the track for 5,000, for 3,200, for the mile. It doesn't matter. It's going to equate to something ridiculously fast. People can argue and debate about Ritz's times here versus these guys' times. Again, it's different. But if your legs are covering 3.1 miles in low 14s, once you get on a track, something special is going to happen.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that special thing in the months to come, right? We're going to see these kids run quick miles, run fast 2 miles. They're probably going to run a track 5K. They're going to go
Yeah,
after Galen Rupp's high school record. Nico Young
yeah,
went for it, came up short. I can imagine these three kids are going to be eyeing that very hard. Uh, maybe, I mean, imagine if a junior breaks it, right? I mean, Colin's
yeah.
probably going to be the one to break it, but again, they have four really good guys, and three of them are juniors. Uh, I think I said in the beginning, I'm going to start now. We need Newbury Park at the Penn Relays running the 4 by mile.
Mm,
Like they can do their own little. They need to show that they are ready for the big leagues a year or two early from most people, because I don't think they're gonna have Colin Solomon's gonna break four this year, so they're gonna have at least one sub four guy, and those other
mm,
three, I think they're gonna be 402, 403. And if you have three 403s and one 358, that is a legitimate 4 by mile. And I think we could see something special and see them maybe finish like top three in a collegiate division. I don't know how we get that to happen. Maybe someone you need to tweet at Newbury Park or do something, email the coach, find a way to get their attention, but tell them, add to their schedule, of which there's going to be a lot of things. Like they're probably going to want to go to Milrose. They're probably going to do a
mm-hmm.
bunch of other marquee events. But if you're in high school and you have a chance to be the first ever high school 4 by mile team to be
Yeah,
invited in the college division, I think you should find a way to make that happen.
be pretty cool. Women's side of things, Natalie Cook of Flower Mound, 16:03, blew out the field, won by 19 seconds. Team wise, Niwot got the win, 123 over Buchanan, 152. So team wise, things much closer on the girl side of things, but individually, Natalie Cook with the blowout win here and another fast time. I mean, just underscoring that this course is quick. I don't think anybody is disputing that. I think more is just how do you put in perspective what you see when the national championship setup changed this year. Obviously, last year didn't have one. It's hard to quantify it, but then we're obviously getting clear indications on the boys' sides that Newbury Park is best team ever. It's gonna be a long time until we see another team like that again. Maybe next year's Newbury Park. We'll have to wait a whole year to see a team as good as this one when next year they get even better somehow. Update from the chat, Gordon. Tampa Eagle says this is the guy who's joined, who's on Gordon's Goons.
One
I
of
was
one.
Philly born and raised, go Nova and Sixers and Eagles and Flyers and Phillies. Oh man. This is a burner
It's a
account.
four for
This is a
four
Gordon
guy.
burner account. Is that
It's
what they call
yeah,
him?
I subscribed to myself. That's what happened.
A 4 for 4? Is that what they call him? If you go for all four teams?
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy. That's what they say. You're a fan of all four Philadelphia sports. That's what they,
Is that just a Philly term? Or is that like
I don't know. It
in
just it sounds like I'm ordering like a Whopper from Burger King. I'll have the 4 for 4. Like it sounds like a fast food order, not a Philadelphia fandom trope. I don't know. So I don't
okay,
say it,
but not
but I just did.
not a Philly not a Philadelphia Union fan because unfortunately they fell in the
They
Eastern
did.
Conference Finals of MLS. So
I saw that.
got that New York versus Portland final. Gordon, we'll preview that on Friday. MLS Cup gonna be exciting. Uh okay.
We'll do a cross pod
What's
with the
next?
Striker Texas. That's what we'll do.
Do you know anybody there?
I do
Make
know
that
someone.
happen.
I know the managing editor.
All right, we'll have to
Pretty
figure
good.
that out. All
She
right.
she came on the bar crawl with me, so we got to know each other, and then we'll maybe be able to make that happen. People are kind of
Okay.
confused what we're talking about. Let's talk about running. That's what we're here for. Let's get back
Here
on
we
track.
go. We're here for
Literally.
running. All right. Valencia. Listen, I'm normally the marathon guy here. I'm also the guy who said this could be 202 and then it got 1 and 205. So listen, don't listen to me that much. Lawrence Sharono, though, won 205.11. I think that's significant because he'd be my number two to Kipchoge. Now, he got fourth at the Olympics, but he's won Boston. He's won Chicago. He's run really fast in Valencia. The guy's just very consistent. Women's side of things, field was not as stacked. So Nancy Jelligat runs 2:19:31, but on the men's side, it was a little slower than I thought. A little slower than I thought. Cam Moore coming back after that accident, he gets fourth in 2:05 23 PB for him. But it's just weird seeing 2:05s now. Like like this
You're
because everybody wants
expecting
to talk
more.
about. Well, everybody wants to talk about how ridiculously fast this year is, and we can't believe any of the times. And you look in the depth of performances, and that's obviously true. And then you look at the half, and it's obviously true. But if you pull up the men's marathon this year, it's kind of weird because you had Ikira run 2:02:57 in Milan, which was weird like out of nowhere type of performance. But then after that, there was only 3 other sub 2:04 performances this year. So all total, there's only 4 sub 2:04s in 2021. Unless
I think
someone's
I
going to
know
run something
why.
at the why? It's a secret? Olympics?
I think, yeah, it's the Olympic effect. Like,
Okay,
you put all of your weight and energy and power and gold mine, I'm making up words, into the Olympic marathon, and then
sure.
the fall season, it's great and all, and you're going for appearance fees, you're trying to win, you're going for like finish place, but like you're kind of coming off a high, you're kind of realizing like, all right, I got to another 4 years to go. Like, I don't need to go for broke in the first marathon after the Olympics. Like, I think
Mm,
you'll start seeing people pick it up again as we get closer to 2024. Like, I think next year will be faster. I think 2023 will be the fastest. And then it's going to dip down again in 2024. Like, I think it's cyclical.
fair.
I mean, I have to look at the numbers, but I would assume you probably consistently see an average slower top tier on the first season of marathons after the Olympics, so aka the fall. So fall of 2016 is probably very replicable to fall of 2021.
Yeah, but I was including the beginning of the year too, which I get. You could say
Yeah,
they're
but
prepping for the Olympics, so they're
yeah,
going
you're
to be
prepping, so you're
cautious
not really
going in.
fast there either.
But
Yeah.
but there's just so many people out there now, and only 3 are running per country. So there's a lot of people who got excluded. You think that someone would pop it, and Ikiru was that guy. He's the one who goes and runs 2:02:57. It just women's side a lot of 2:17s. So it was I don't know how you want to equate a 2:17 to a 2:04. It's tough because you got Kosgei's time, which is just so far out there, but you got Kipchoge's time, who's so far out there. The women just it felt quicker than the men, and maybe that's because the best people ran post Olympics. Where on the men's side, you had this giant absence with Kipchoge. Let's stick with the
If you
roads,
missed
though.
the if you missed the race, the full race replay is on YouTube on the FloTrack channel. So make
Yeah,
sure you like and subscribe the main FloTrack channel, and like and subscribe this one, and become a member of this one because
and then
this
become a
one,
member of Gordon's. Great integration there. That was just really well
not
done.
with Kevin's
Very
team, just with me. Join
yeah.
me and
Become a
Tampa Eagle.
You have to click something that says Gordon though, which is going to be tough for some people out there. Uh, there was a great hypothetical when we were driving back from Houston. You posed this great hypothetical and I'm not going to discuss it on the pod because I want to clear it with you first. So I'm not going to bring it up now. And it's pretty dark. It goes to a dark area, but I do think we should discuss it at one point vis-a-vis your relationship with the running community and
Oh,
you would be how you would be perceived if you no longer were here. But we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about Connor Mantz, Gordon. Connor Mantz, half marathoner. How does that sound?
I mean, it doesn't sound as good as full marathoner.
True. Sounds about half as good.
Half
He
as good.
goes to the what is this? The Mortgage Network Road Races USATF Half Marathon Championship in Hardyville, South Carolina, and runs 60:55. Beats Sam Chalanga by 4 seconds. This is his essentially his pro debut, not coming back to BYU. He's the only guy this year from the United States who's run sub was the first guy because Chalanga did it too. But that's the fastest half marathoner, half marathon by an American this year. Lara was what 61:0. So Mance, big PR, as good as advertised, wins the U.S. title. This is going to be fun because I don't think he's going to mess around with the 10,000 too much. I think we know exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you kind of did a little cherry picking stat classic. Is what I would do. Like, oh, first under 61, but at the same time, he beat only Sam Chalanga by 4 seconds. Sam Chalanga, who is a person who's come in and out of retirement and is, you know, it's
Well, he
like
beat
when
some
look
other
compare.
people by. Hold on, hold on. He beat Leonard Career by almost a
That's more
minute,
impressive. Okay, so how
but
much?
Leonard
How
Career
much
got
you beat
seventh.
him? So maybe
Well,
career kind of just had a bad race.
Frank Lara ran 62:19 and
Yeah.
finished
Well, I'm
ninth.
just thinking like this idea is like you can't always look at times anymore. You always have to look at kind of like the
Yeah,
field
competition too.
more
Yes, yeah.
because maybe everyone's just fast now. But regardless of that, it does show that he's going to be a guy. I think
Mhm.
if you haven't bought it already, you got to buy all your Connor Mantz stock, especially 4 years from now. You don't
Yeah,
know what Rupp's going to be 4 years from now, but you know Connor Mantz is going to be in his prime. Connor's going to make. He's going to. I think he's the next great male U.S. marathoner. I'm willing to put that out there. I think him and Wayne Kaladi, they need to just start their own club together and be like, we are the next best great U.S. American marathoners. Next
uh,
great U.S. marathoners, Kaladi and
like,
Mantz. We're seeing Kaladi dominate the roads. Now you see Mantz go 1 for 1 on the roads here. I think we need to make a shirt, Kaladi and Mantz.
okay, hold on. So you jumped a whole step. I was attempting to be provocative, and I was gonna say, if I gave you, you put Rupp aside, but 2024, if I said Mance is gonna make the team or the field, like a combo of Hare, Benny, take your pick, whoever that group is, who would you take? But you sped right past that at
No,
about 80
yeah.
miles an hour, and you're like, he's on the Olympic team.
The
Okay,
only way he won't be is if he's hurt.
yeah,
You know, I don't see anyone
yeah.
behind him coming up that would surpass him in 4 years, and I don't see anyone ahead of him that would stay ahead of him in 4 years. You know, like
He's got to
Career
run
is
one
older
first,
now that I
though.
think about it. Lenny Career is
You're putting
older.
him on.
He would have been a guy. I mean, Betty and Hare, they're good, but like I don't see them like dominating Mance. I mean, when you look at what they did in college and what Mance did in college, Mance was like
Yeah,
definitely another level higher. Not that those guys were good; they were all American quality, but Mance is like national title quality, and he can handle
yeah.
that effort. And I think ever since he won that 2020 cross country championship over Wesley Kiptoo, what Kiptoo was looked like as a god coming off of dominating indoors in his gloves, and like no one's ever going to beat Kip to this. And then he's just like, I'm going to beat him. And then he beats him. And then he goes on and runs well. Like, Mance is the guy. And it's great because he always looks like he's not the guy. His running form and his facial
Hmm.
expressions look like he's going to fall over, looks like he is in over his head, but then he doesn't fall over until he crosses the finish line, which is,
Yeah.
it's kind of wild. They're like, how's this guy still going at this pace, 2 miles in, 3 miles in, and then you realize, oh, that's just how he looks. He's like the exact opposite of Matthew Sensuitz. Sensuitz looks like he's jogging on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Connor Mance looks like he's
Yeah.
running up a 10-foot story hill. It's just like, but Mance, man, he's the guy. I got my stock. I'm going all in. I'm taking all my money out of crypto and I'm putting it all in on Connor Mance. I'm going to make a Mance coin.
You,
I should make a
you
Mance
should have.
coin.
You should have done
That would
that
make a lot of
earlier. I
money.
think before the weekend.
Make a Mance
Yeah.
coin and then sell it in 2024.
Yeah. I already have my Kaladi dollars or whatever. What was it? I don't even know what they wouldn't. Whatever it be called. Okay, but he hasn't run a marathon. I'm with you because I always beat the drum for early marathon debuts. I just want to see him do one first to have any sort of confidence that this is going to work. But
He should do
on
Boston.
paper,
He should
it's.
just go for it.
I think he might. He's wanted to do these. Remember, he wanted to do it last year, and then he
Yeah.
got hurt in the lead up to Atlanta. I look at his. Do you think he might try to lower his PBs a bit though? First on the track, like I'm looking at these 13:24 and 27:41. Those are really out of date for him, don't you think? Those are not indicative of how good of a runner he is.
I just don't want him to get distracted and be like, "Ooh, I'm going to try to make the 10K world team." No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't try to make the
Yeah.
10K
Yeah.
world team. Like, you're not Grant Fisher. You're not Woody
Yeah.
Kincaid. You're not whoever the next guy. Like, you may believe in yourself, but I believe you may believe in yourself that you can make a 10K team, but I believe in you more that you could be a future American record holder in the marathon. So go for that route.
Well, he's older. He's run longer distances before. He trains at a really high level already. He's got a lot of examples around him with people like Jared Ward who have done it. He is the guy. He is the guy if you're going to choose a guy. Also, don't you think the fact that the 5 and the 10 is really good right now might just discourage him too? Because he's got to be looking at, like, man, Klecker and Fisher and Kincaid and Chalimo. This is going to be tough.
I just thought, you know what Mantz can be? Mantz
Mm.
can be the "we told you so" for USATF against USATF. Because imagine if Mantz would go run Boston and finish like third at Boston in his
Oh, okay.
marathon debut.
You're talking about world
And then you'll
champs
be
against
like,
him.
"Oh, why isn't Connor Mantz on the world team?"
Mhm.
Because you made a weird rule halfway through. That would be great.
But then
I
I
mean,
but then I think Mance goes and makes a bucket load of money for a fall marathon, and I think he's fine. And then he makes the
that's
next
true.
world team.
Run Chicago. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
on
true.
the women's side of the Mortgage Network Road Races half marathon championships in Hardyville, South Carolina, Kira D'Amato, 67:55. Natasha Rogers second, 69:36 for her. So big win for D'Amato. She's proven herself. We know she's good. It's just a matter of what distance is she going to pursue to get to that next level, which would be making a a team on the track or getting getting that big major marathon performance. Doesn't surprise me when she runs this well, Kira D'Amato.
Yeah. You she's not going away. You know, she's not gonna be a flash in the pan. She kind of developed she was the flash in the pan over pandemic time because we're like, ooh, who's this girl or woman? She's not a girl anymore. She's older. She's what? She over 35 now? She was like breaking like she was like doing the classic like first ever this age and up to run this fast and under. She was like doing that
You
whole
were the one
thing.
who was looking up
Uh,
all those stats. That
yeah,
was
that
you
was
who was
me.
looking
I
up
was
all.
doing that.
Yeah.
But
And then you're
yeah,
like,
I guess the question for her is, or I have a question for you is, what if you're her and you just ran 67:55, you just won US half, you know you're not going to be on the world championship marathon team.
yeah.
What do you focus on? Do you focus on getting back into the 10K to run at the trials in the 10K? Because she didn't get to run the Olympic trials last year because she's hurt. Does she go for
Mhm.
that experience and like try to make a 10K team, or does she skip it and go
Mar-
for I want to run a very fast fall marathon, or does she try to do both?
Marathon. I think it's
Marathon.
marathon for her. This, and she'll run the world half champs too. This is her distance. I think half on the roads just sets up perfectly for her because it's long enough to where she can use that strength that she's obviously, and she's so locked in now. Um, but it's short enough to where it takes out some of the variability and probably some of the hiccups that can come about in marathon training. But I think the 10K for the US right now, I mean, it's tough. That is a tough team to make. We talked about it last year and it ended up a lot of people got hurt and opted for other events and weird stuff happened. So it didn't become as competitive. But don't you feel like you have to pencil in Schweizer and Cranny for the next couple cycles? I feel like you do. So you're racing for one spot and it's tough. Whereas the marathon, I think it separates a little bit and you can at least you have two opportunities per year with those big major races. So I would say full.
Well, Schweizer is dealing with the ankle injury or the Achilles injury. She was in the boot, so will she
Okay.
be 100% by the summer? I don't know.
Well,
Anyway, we
like
have time to think
last
about it.
yeah, I don't have to answer right now. Um,
Don't think it's right now.
CIM was quick as per usual. Sarah Vaughn just showing ultimate range here. A miler. She runs 2:26:53 in her debut. On the men's side, Brendan Gregg ran 2:11. But man, that speaking of marathon, the marathon is just competitive. Like there are so many, like the standard for what it takes to be in the mix for women's marathoning is just dropping and dropping and dropping. And we saw really good fall performances and another one from Sarah Vaughn here. But that's for a, like her half. She set her half PB twice in this race, I believe. Kind of like
What do
what
you think
Frisbee did.
what do you think the parlay was for Molly Seidel, Olympic marathon medalist, and Sarah Vaughn sub 227 marathon
Yeah.
debut in the same year?
Yeah.
Was
I mean, it shows that
I bet
nobody
this
knows anything about.
is what, like plus like 4,000 plus 5,000?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's crazy off the board. But that brings me to the next topic, which we'll close on here, is the new rules for qualification for the marathon trials. These were announced what last Friday, so it was after we were recording. So for the women, 2:37 and 1:12 for the half. The marathon time that's 8 minutes faster than it was before, which was 2:45. The half marathon is down from 1:13 to 1:12, and the men it's 2:18 and 1:03, which 1 minute faster than before. Obviously, the fields were enormous in Atlanta. This will cut them down. How much? Difficult to say. I've seen different analysis out, different people taking a shot at trying to forecast what it would mean. It's tough to tell though, because once you set a bar, you don't know how many people are gonna, reorient themselves to try to go for it, or how many other races will pop up with the express goal of running that fast. But it will definitely be smaller than it was before.
Yeah, because you think about a woman who ran 240 to qualify in 2016. I
Yeah.
mean, qualifying for 2020. She had no incentive to go out to try to run 236 in the next one,
Right.
right? She's like, "Oh, I'm in,"
Yeah.
So the idea that only 90 women would have qualified isn't really necessarily true because you don't people run to qualify. You don't. I'm not everyone's. You have multiple times. Once
Yeah.
you're in, you're in. You don't need to redo it second time.
Right.
Uh, so if I had to, I was thinking about this. Everyone, so women was like 500 in 2020,
Yeah.
right? And the men was like what
Yeah.
250
Yeah.
ish. Okay, and I think these new standards, I think it's going to end up being 200 and 200. I think that it's going to equal. I don't think it's going to be more men than women. I think there's women are going to just run faster. And I think, yes, you can look, only 90 women would have gotten in. I think there's another 110 out there who would have also gotten in if they just knew that the standard was harder, or if they just knew they had to run a little bit faster to get to that point.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, two running 236.59 is very different from running 244.59. Uh,
Right.
but I also think that it's good. I think it's good for the sport because the sport can push itself, and there'd be a time when all of a sudden the 236 time is bloated, right? And like we have 350 women running 236 or faster, and
Mhm.
we're like, all right, we need to cut it down. And the more you cut it down, the faster this nation is becoming. And at the end of the day, I get the idea behind the Marathon Olympic trials. It's like a way for the community to also have an event for themselves of like, they're not going to make the Olympics. The people who
Yeah.
qualify for the, 95% of the people who qualify for the Olympic marathon trials aren't making the Olympic, have no chance of making it. But I do think there is a little bit of excess. Like, no one is fighting for the 150th fastest 100-meter runner to be
Mhm. Mhm.
at the at the Olympic trials on the track, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's okay for there to be a cutoff. I think it's okay to be more stringent. I think it's okay to make it harder. I think There are people who will still hit it, and there are people who won't. But at the end of the day, it's okay. Like, we don't need to have a mass participation race at a national championship event. Like, it just doesn't need to happen. So I think
Yeah.
it's good.
I,
I personally predict 200 women will hit it, and I think 200 men will hit the standard on their side as well. And I think it'll be even.
yeah, it's an Olympic trials race, and I was in Atlanta, and it was massive, and it was cool to see the crowds there, and the crowds were there because the fields were so big, obviously, and everybody brings
Yeah,
friends and family out, and I'm sure, no doubt, that helped fill hotel rooms and restaurants. But on the flip side of things, the local organizing committee had to pay all this money to put on this race. And if you look at the finances for what it costs for a host city to put the bid together and put on the Olympic Trials Marathon, it's not cheap. And I don't think you can expect people to lose money and still get bidders for the marathon because all that costs money in terms of volunteers and setup. I think the problem is with marathoning is there's nothing in between Olympic trials and Boston as a qualifier. And there's a lot of people that
yeah,
inhabit that space. They want something that's more ambitious than Boston because Boston isn't set up to be this sub elite type race. You know, it's you got to be good, you got to be in shape, but you also can get in if you're raising money for charity. But then to say, okay, that venue is the Olympic trials where we're picking the people to go against Eliud Kipchoge and Bridget Kosgei, like that should be the venue for everybody. You're right. It's out of whack with every other, not only every other track event, but most other Olympic events in general. So I think there needs to be, and Fukuoka Marathon does this. I don't know if they still do this, and used to be, I think, a bigger deal internationally, to where the standard was just like hard to get in. Like there needs to be a marathon where the qualifying for time for women is 250, and for men it is 220 or whatever the equivalent is,
yeah.
and that could be the stage. But I get people wanting to go and compete at the trials. That's a lifelong dream. That would be an amazing goal, but it's it's difficult when you have 500 people and to like 700 people showing up total for 6 spots, and the people putting on the race are losing money. That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know, that you make up a good point. They have you for the sub elite runner. Once you achieved a goal of qualifying for Boston, the next goal is just Olympic trials, which is kind of a big jump from.
It's a huge
And you
jump.
make a good
Yeah,
point there. It's a huge jump,
yeah,
and they kind of can make the standard easier, but then all of a sudden you're kind of like, what are we doing here? Why do we have
yeah,
500 people at an event that picks the best three? It's not a good ratio.
yeah. And I look, and I acknowledge the marathon is different beast than track, right? I don't think the
Sure,
Olympic marathon should have 8 people in the final or have 24 people or 48 people to start with. Like you have
it would
extra
be fun.
space. Yeah, you you have extra space. Use the extra
Yeah.
space, but there does need to be a limit, and I think the limit starts to come in on the trial side when you're talking about cost. And then the ultimate goal is to pick people to represent pick the 3 best people to represent the United States
What if we
at the
did
Olympics,
this?
and that needs to be the focus.
What if we did this? What if we make the Olympic marathon trials? Let's think about on the women's side because men it's been hasn't been changed that much. What if we made the Olympic marathon trials the standard like 230, 233, 232, so fast. So only like 50-ish people were qualifying, 50 to
Mhm.
70. So it's good. Like you're the elite of the elite. You're top 50 in your country. You're good. So you deserve to be there. But then we know we've been talking about this world championship qualifying process, the whole like,
Yeah,
oh, best step, Boston, this, and that. Scratch all that. And let's start making the USATF Marathon Championship a more real thing and
yeah,
say for the off years of for the world's years, USA's becomes a bigger deal. People actually go to USA Marathon Championships on world's years, and you make that
Yeah.
standard 245 or 242 or whatever. So you basically have three levels. You have, oh, I qualify for Boston, check. Oh, I qualified for the World Championship trials. That's like the 240,
Yeah.
245. And then the third round, oh, I qualified for the Olympic trials. So you have like
There's
just
just
three different
yeah.
tiers.
There's just something about saying the word Olympic trials that cuts through, and it's just validation for people because people who don't run even on, everybody understands what the Olympic trials means. I think they should do this. I think they should do
World
this.
Championship trials sounds kind of good. No, doesn't it?
It
World
does sound it
Championship
does sound
trials?
cool. Yeah, yeah, it sounds cool, but people don't watch the World Championships outside of track fans. So you have the 237 standard, right? But then 237 to 245 qualifies for what I'm calling the trials to the trials. And they're in a separate race 3 months before the
Ooh,
trials. And you take like the top 10, you could build a lot of programming around that because there's a lot of
yeah.
inspirational, interesting stories around that. And then people would really fixate on those 10 going into the Olympic trials, even though they'd have a really, really,
They were
really,
like the
really, really
wild
long
card
shot of going.
selections.
Yeah,
They were
you
like the
get
wild
10
card.
out of
Yeah.
the, yeah. And there would be, I don't even know what, there would still be like 300 women and a whole bunch of, for the men, you could do the same thing. Like there'd still be it'd be a huge field, a big field. But then you just take the top 10 out of that and they get to go and compete at the trials.
And then they also get to feel the celebration of like they get the euphoria twice.
Yeah.
Because you have the
Yeah.
euphoria of making that round, and then you have the euphoria of being top 10. You're like, oh my god, I made it to the Olympic trials. Yeah, that would be. I like
Yeah.
that. Logistically,
I
I
just think
guess
about
you'd
the
have to hold
content.
it like 6 months before. How I guess it'd just be
I do it like 2 or 3, whatever's best for, I just think about this from a content perspective, Gordon. Like, you
yeah.
can't expect people to remember people 6 months.
I like
Run it by
that.
JoJo. Run it by JoJo. She's the only serious, Olympic trials contender that I know. So,
Yeah. Well, she might make it.
see what's
For those who don't know, Johanna
the
Gretschel,
trials to the
former
trials or the
FloTrack, she's
trials?
gonna. Yeah, she. No, I think she can make. I think she can run 236. I don't know. I'm
There you
putting it
go.
out there in the world that I think she can do it. Why not? She ran
So
248
it's
at
her
Boston in her debut, so she
plus
has like
199.
11 minutes to go. I
Yeah.
can, if
I mean,
we
she
think about anything you do in life, just do it 11 minutes faster. That's all she has to do. It's not that hard.
as I say that, we're 2 minutes over on this podcast. One last story I wanna
There you
get
go.
to. They're moving the 10,000 up. They're not gonna have the 10,000 at the U.S. trials this year. It's going to be in LA on its own. You like this decision? You don't like this decision? This decision doesn't ultimately matter.
I like it and I don't like it, if that
Tough for
makes
the
any
college
sense.
kids.
Stuff for the college kids. I like the decision in that uh, it's exciting for that specific event. It gets its own little party. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
we're watching the 10K. This is what we're here for. It feels like a cross country day. You know, that's what I
Yeah,
love about cross country finals. It's like two races. We're in and we're out. We just did it. I like that kind of aspect when the 10K kind of just gets absolved into some things about track meets. Sometimes it's better to separate them. It's more entertainment around that one. It feels more specific.
yeah,
I don't like though the fact that there are going to be people who will qualify who will it's going to be weird with doubling because it's really easy to double when the two events
yeah,
are multiple weeks apart. But can you double when they're only 5 days apart? And there might be an athlete out there who gets the double, but truly wasn't isn't ready for the double. If that makes any sense.
we should back
Like I
up
think
and
we
say
might
part of
sacrifice a
the,
spot because the person got it
the
because they
reason they're
had
doing this, the reason they're doing this though is because trials and the world champs are so close to each other, and they're doing
no,
it
I
just because they
understand that.
want to give the 10K folks time to recover. So yeah, I get your point. I'm trying to think though. Has anybody really fallen apart on the second half of a double? I guess there has been.
I mean,
I don't
I
remember
mean,
anybody off.
like think I'm not sure what's first, but like if you just say you had someone make the 10K team and then they go on and make the 5K team and they truly are better at the 5K, right? And
Yeah.
the 5K is first, right?
Right.
And then they go and they run the 5K well at uh Worlds, and then when they run the 10K, they're just not competitive. They're just like finishing 20th.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
Sure.
like,
Sure.
what are we doing here? Why were you in that race if you knew you were going to finish 20th? I get it, they deserved it, they earned it, they got it. Can't take it away from them. But or her.
Right.
But I think it'd be cool if there's someone who's going all in on just the 10K, and someone that's just going all in on the 5K. I feel like doubles should be you got to be
Tough.
tough in both. And I just don't like it when people have a double and then they sacrifice it at the world championship level. And it's just like, one other person could have,
Fair.
hey, but they earned
Fair.
the right to sacrifice it because they were good. So if
Multis
you don't want them to do
also
it,
are
beat
going to
them.
move up. Hep and
Yeah.
Deck are going to be earlier as well too. I feel. I mean, if you bought tickets already for the
No,
U.S.
no, you're
champs, but
fine.
I don't think anybody's. I don't think anybody bought tickets yet. I mean, maybe they did because
Well,
then they
how many
just announced the
people?
dates. They just announced the
Yeah,
dates.
how
So
many people are gonna be like, "Oh man, this was a great track meet. If only though we didn't have the 10K. So all those 5K runners that we saw, we could have saw them 2 times." It's like, no, okay, you have to see them.
you don't think that
You'll be
person
fine.
exists? All right, fair
I don't think that
enough.
person
I just think
exists.
it's weird with the college athletes. I think it's weird. That's a strange setup for them. Are they going
But
to
how
let
many college kids were
them run?
making the 10K?
What about
Abdi
the
Nur,
multis
maybe?
though?
Multis
Multis?
that?
Anybody in
Yeah.
the multis?
Well, multis, they don't need to do prelim for multis. So they can still do
Okay,
it.
there's no conflict. It's just tough to jam all that stuff into the season because the goal here is get better performance at Worlds.
Yeah.
So that should be the end result. That's why you're not doing it at USA's. It's because it's too tight of a turnaround. What do you think of such a tight turnaround? Do you like that from a spectator perspective? USA's and then 3 weeks later Worlds. I
Yeah.
do personally.
I don't want them to have too much of a break because when you have too much of a break, you kind of, they can get hurt
You don't like
easier.
you
They could
you don't
just
like
like
four
be not
Diamond League
as,
meets in between.
yeah, no, no. It should be like boom, boom, done. And then,
If you had
I
to
don't like, I
choose,
don't like long break.
we're going over here, Colt. I apologize. If you had to choose, these your three options, right? Um, some
Option four.
Diamond Leagues. Do everything 11 minutes faster. Uh, no, there's three options. Basically,
Yeah.
like Doha 2019, where you had trials relatively early. You had the whole Diamond League season, and then you had Doha at the end, and then that was pretty much it. So the World Championships ended. So you had trials, a bunch of Diamond Leagues, finals. Would you like it the Eugene method, where it's trials, World Champs, and then some Diamond Leagues, a bunch of Diamond Leagues at the end? So the Diamond Leagues are just this extension of the season. Or would you like it kind of how it was for Tokyo, where it's um, spread out between the two? So basically, trials, some Diamond Leagues, World Champs, and then a few Diamond Leagues, like cut in half, basically.
I, I, I mean, I was joking when I said option four, but I would rather it be all diamond leagues than trials than worlds. That's what I would want.
Okay, so like Doha, except you'd move trials till like August,
September.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put trials in beginning of September and then Doha in October. Yeah. So that, because I would want like, you have the regular season and then we're gearing up for the trials and then you have the worlds. Like none of this regular season stuff in between, before, after, middle. Everything should be complete. Regular season should be complete. Now, that's my option four. Option five is the one I really want, which is the whole four majors. But
Wait, I never heard about that. Tell me about that while Colt cuts your mic. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Hey, uh, become a member of the FloTrack podcast YouTube page. You click join on the YouTube page or underneath this video. Remember, there's 3 levels, so you can decide how you'd like to support the channel. One of them has Gordon's name on it. You can pick that if you want, but I'd pick the one with my name on it. And then there's just like the higher tier prelim time is PR time one. You get custom loyalty badges next to your name in the comments, a live chat, emojis. We're going to roll out some member-only videos coming up soon. Again, give us feedback. What would you like to see? But first things first, become a member. We sure would appreciate it. Thank you to Travis for producing. Thanks you to Colt for producing. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And to Tampa Eagle, the first ever member of the FloTrack podcast YouTube page, even though he joined on Gordon's team. I'm so appreciative. We'll see you guys Wednesday.